And we going live on a Monday. We going live. Happy Monday, everyone. Hope everybody's having a great Monday. I just wanted to jump on here and share with you my new memoir, Columbia Avenue, that I published on Saturday. I have a little break at work. But again, my memoir is called Columbia Avenue, One Father's Journey Through Grief. And it's available now on Kindle. It's also available on the book patch, which is in my bio right now. Link in my bio to get a paperback copy or version of my new memoir, Columbia Avenue. And I just wanted to come on here and kind of express my intentions on publishing the memoir. The project is actually 5 years old. It was a recount of the traumatic experience my wife and I went through in 2014 when we had to bury our firstborn son. He was stillborn January 14th, 2014. And he was only 2 weeks away from his actual due date, and he passed away due to asphyxiation, the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck, and he passed away. And God put it on my heart to write a story about it. He says, share your story. And so he put it on my heart to share my story, because I just remember when I was going through my grief experience that it wasn't, there wasn't a whole lot out there that was available for me to read, or there wasn't a whole lot out there that I could lean on. And so I wrote a story. I actually finished it in 2015, but it took me 7 years to actually finish the project and actually publish the project, which is interesting coincidentally, because the number 7 in the Bible actually stands for perfect or complete. God completed the world in 7 days. And so it actually means complete or perfect. And so that's kind of a coincidence, maybe not a coincidence, but very interesting. So I just wanted to come on and really share my heart. I published the book because I believe that the story will help others who are actually going through the process of grief, other parents who are actually dealing with stillborn children. It actually accounts still for 20% of American pregnancies actually go through a stillbirth. 1 in 5 still go through a stillbirth experience. And that's just amazing that we haven't progressed far enough in science yet to actually kind of stop these things from happening, because they're so traumatic for families. It's been traumatic for my family, and it changes you forever. It does. It changes you forever. The book is about 203 pages, and I'm going to share today a chapter from that book, my book, called Heartbeat. And this chapter actually walks through the moment that my wife and I had when we learned that our son had passed away at 36 weeks in utero. And so I'm going to jump in and start reading. To everybody who has shown me love on this project, who has commented, who has purchased a book, I want you to know that I'm going to hold that to my heart forever. And I thank you for supporting me in this process and walking with me in this process. But let me start reading for you. Again, the chapter is called Heartbeat. This is my memoir, Columbia Avenue, One Father's Journey Through Grief. Again, available on Kindle for $2.99, and also available for paperback. The link is in my bio. Thank you for all of your support. And here is Heartbeat. I may have neglected the sunrise on the morning of January 13th, 2014. Usually all I ever needed, saw, smelled, and tasted in the morning was mid-roasted ground coffee. I tend to add a small decadent of cream, as well as some sugar to sweeten. The reviving stimulus from the first sip that flows like a river from digestive entry to digestive stagnation in the stomach electrifies the entire stream of my down vertical nature in swallowing. All I swallowed this morning so far was my own spit, hence I struggled to gain consciousness very much. Although today was intended to be a special day, one of anticipated celebration, Tangerine, my wife, was subversively stressed today. Being married to this woman for 4 years total at this point, I've come to the conclusion back then that Tan's most worrisome moments tend to outline her face, just like makeup. The sinister press-in of her upper brow in the middle of her forehead, conjoined with the raising of the sun on her right eyebrow, paints the picture of her discontent and preoccupation. We were rushed all morning, trying desperately to make our appointment at the doctor's office for Nehemiah's 36-week checkup. We've measured our lives by the week for the last 9 months. Every week being something new was happening with our son, developing dynamically in the womb the entire time. God's work at hand. By a fool's manner, I remember I was disinterested at the time, neglecting my own heartbeat with an ingenuous conscience. If I could go back, I would hold precious all the seconds he was here, inasmuch as all those treasurable moments, from embryo to fetus, would be filled with my engagement. We wound up being a few minutes late for the appointment. Bad time management, I suppose, and lack of planning on my part. Traffic was unusually light, and Tan was unusually quiet on the way to the clinic. When we arrived, as Tan walked over to sign us in, I made my coffee. Each sip jolted and flowed through my bloodstream like an electric current. Tan sat down in the waiting room, which was chock full of lazy boy chairs, the only thing I liked about this clinic. I approached her and accompanied her, sinking into a stressful state as my body molded in the chair. Passing her the unusual glass of water that I poured for her at every appointment. So far, so good. It seemed odd Tan still wasn't communicating with me that much. Did I do something wrong? I thought, sitting there uneventfully. Before I took another sip of coffee, our host nurse summoned us to the back. Good, they're moving fast this morning, I thought. Maybe we could get some breakfast afterwards. I took one look at Tan, and I knew she was reading in my mind about the breakfast. Tan needed to provide a urine sample. I went and sat down in the room that the nurse directed me into and awaited my wife's return. The patient room remained as ominous as usual. I've gotten used to coming to this clinic over the course of the last 9 months. I was ecstatic that Tan and I were only 2 weeks away from our son being born, but for all the wrong reasons. I was tired of the grinding, the hustling, the pregnancy, the doctor's visits, the work of it all. The day couldn't come fast enough for Nehemiah to breathe earthly air, because of my cognitive worrying and, sadly, not even with my best effort put forth as husband and father. Plainly and stubbornly selfish. In essence, manhood took a while for me to adapt to. Thanks to my son and ground-level warfare, the man reflecting yours truly in the mirror today looks a lot better, humbler, and much more grateful. Shamefully sitting in the patient room alone, reading my work emails. The neglectfulness, my God, of my misogynism and lack of understanding. I had no idea what was coming, what dire news that was minutes away from being delivered. While writing this summation, the trait fall guy seems fitting. I came to as many appointments as I could. Nearing the end, we have been coming every week, and the routine was becoming exhausting. But as time was nearing, the two of us were becoming more and more anxious, and Tan was ready and tired. I just wanted the pregnancy part to be over for her. I sat in my usual corner of the patient room, funneling through work emails before I had to return. I took a half day so that we could have our appointment together. My wife, Tangerine, came back and sat up on the patient bed. "How'd that pee feel, babe?" I asked, and she responded, "Righteous." I chuckled. I can say with confidence I don't envy pregnant women. It was getting hard. Although she amazed me daily with her tenacity through this pregnancy. I was in awe of her strength, toughness, and focus. Most days I can't remember how she survived. The nurse didn't take long and made her entrance. The nurse said, "So how we feeling? Anything out of the usual?" The nurse begins to check Tan's vitals and blood pressure. Tan responds, "I'm feeling all right. Just ready for this baby to be out of me. I've noticed, though, that he hasn't been moving as much." Nurse, "Oh? How long has that been lasting? A few days? A couple of days?" Tan responds, "Yeah, I noticed it over the weekend." Nurse says again, "Okay, well, let's see how baby is doing. He was doing okay last week. I know that you guys were just in here." The nurse pulls out a Doppler, which is a tool that measures the heartbeat of an infant while in the uterus. She checked in a few places. The noise the machine made reminded me of the sound a sonar beam gun made in some of the cartoons I used to watch, like the swishing of water back and forth in a full bathtub. I always would focus real hard to find his heartbeat. This went on for quite some time, and I guess she couldn't locate it. I thought I heard the heart beating like 6 times already. Apparently not the case as I watched the nurse change tools. "This one might be broken," she said. "Let me go and get another. Most likely this one isn't working correctly." I think to myself. The nurse plays around with the more competent Doppler and still nothing. I noticed Tan, my wife, crinkling her brow, as she usually does when she is getting more and more concerned. The nurse leaves for a moment, and Tan motions to me. She says, "Jim, what do you think is wrong? Why can't they find it?" "Babe, don't worry," I say. "It's all right. Just stay calm." The nurse returns with another more seasoned nurse that attempts a try. "She's more seasoned than I," she says. The new nurse tries on the right and on the left and even in the center of Tan's stomach, but still no response. The nurse apologizes and leaves. The in and out was driving me crazy. Tangerine also getting increasingly upset. The doctor returns and tries and gets nothing. She schedules an immediate ultrasound and leaves the room. "Jim, why do you think they can't hear anything?" "Tan," I say, "please don't freak out. Don't assume the worst just yet. Let's go and get this ultrasound. I am sure that he is okay. They haven't said anything yet, so let's just go take a look." At this point, when the doctor is unable to determine a heartbeat, I was worrying heavily. However, I was trying to be optimistic. We walked hand in hand to the other side of the clinic, and Tan got hooked up to the ultrasound machine to see what was going on inside, and shockingly, he wasn't moving, just lying there inside her womb blankly. Tan waiting anxiously for an answer on the hospital bed. "Is he okay, please? Can you just tell me?" she relents. No response. The tech points at something on the screen, and the doctor obliges and leaves the room again. "Please, what's going on with my baby?" Tan asked the technician. I knew it was coming. A moment that will forever haunt me. The doctor walks into the room to give us the news that our baby is dead. "What's going on with our baby?" Doctor replied back turn, "Well, it's not good news, I'm afraid. Your son has passed away." Instantly, I grabbed Tangerine, clutching her while holding back my own tears as she's screaming out for our baby. With her head pressed against my chest, Tangerine hollows and becomes rigid with a harbored reticence. She's trembling, unguarded, vulnerable, and in shock. She begins staring blankly at a wall in front of us. All the while, I begin asking some of the dumbest questions you can ask. What do we do now? Doctor replied, well, I'm here for you guys, so you tell me what you want to do. Me, well, the baby still has to be birthed, right? Doctor replies, yes, the baby is almost full term and will need to be delivered naturally or by C-section. How long can he stay in there, I ask, until decomposing becomes a problem? Well, probably the sooner the better, but no longer than 4 weeks from now before it really starts causing problems for the mother. And the doctor continued, still, we don't have to make a decision right now. You can go home and think it over, or we can go straight to the hospital. It's up to you, but I'm here for you guys. I motion back to Tangerine and ask if she wants to go home, and she nods a simple yes. Audibly, she had not been able to speak a word since we found out the news. I basically carried her to the elevator, exiting the clinic. The staff and the doctor hadn't been this sweet to us during the entire process, but in our moment of anguish, they responded formally appropriate, I supposed. My heart sank into the pit of my stomach. I remember that I could hardly breathe, let alone drive. All I wanted to do was to go back in time 7 days. We just saw him. He was moving around and he was alive. None of this can be real. I'm dreaming. Tan brings me back to reality. This was our reality. Our firstborn son is dead, and our dream is over. Tears flowing outrageously now. Oh God, I keep calling, and no reply. Somehow I'm driving turn for turn. I call Ma, Ma, I need you to come home. Get on a plane. He's dead. Ma, it's over. Just come home. Please, come home. I pass the phone to Tan because Ma tells me to focus on driving, which I complied with. My purpose was to get us home safely. What if her and I were to die in this car together? Seems appropriate. Then perhaps we both can be with Nehemiah again, and my family restored faithfully again. I am turning right on a red light. Sometimes you have an out-of-body experience, and at times I can't remember how we made it the 25-minute drive home from the clinic to our house, but by the grace of God, we made it home. And I turn onto our street, Columbia Avenue. I pull up into the driveway. What was our home supposed to be now, I thought. Surely this isn't it, and surely we can't live here. The last 9 months cultured a family of 3. Me, Tangerine, and our baby boy. Now these enclave walls hemorrhaged insecurity. Bad things happen here. I'm cursed, and perhaps destined for multiplicative catastrophes by these walls. Every aspect vis-a-vis our baby dying in utero. After all, the obstacles pregnancy served on a platter, which Tangerine and I had been through over the last 9 months, intuited a contradiction. I slipped the key in the lock and swing open our front door, and I caught sight of his stroller, the one I recently just spent 4 hours putting together, and I quenched. Tan was so proud of me for putting that together. She watched as I got frustrated and over again, but praised my performance throughout. Tan proceeds forward and walks through the living room, down the hallway towards Nehemiah's room, the first door on the left. Everything that used to be a reality now was just a memory. Tan and I built Nehemiah's room together. The project probably took the entire pregnancy. We started by choosing a theme for his room. We juggled through several possibilities. Maybe a monster theme, a sports theme, or perhaps a mobster theme. Instead, we chose something a bit more unique. After some deliberation, we decided on a nautical theme for the room. This seemed fitting. A husband from Massachusetts and a wife from Louisiana, considered both of our pedigrees, surrounded by water. After settling on the theme for his room, we discussed possible color schemes, which coincidentally wasn't very difficult. Usually the two of us have to compromise a lot on a color scheme, but for some reason or another, the color scheme for Nehemiah's room came naturally to us. We corseted the room in shades of blue and white, with beige carpet. After making all the deliberations and laying out a plan for a nautical-themed possibility with a ship presence, it was time to make the plan a reality. And I remember that I did not want my wife to paint it all. I didn't want her around chemicals being pregnant. Rather, we did all the shopping together. Slowly, over time, the room came together piece by piece. After many trips to home decor stores, the room was paid off and decorated with some map art, some anchor stencils, and we even had a bookshelf that was shaped like a boat. Together we made the room magnificent. We built a closet, hung up some of his clothes, put together the furniture, and placed it tactfully in his room, which came out perfectly. One of my favorite pieces was a piece of poster art that we hung up on one of the crib face walls, which bordered the phrase, "Come sail away with me." Without question, Nehemiah now had the best room in the house. I tenderly beheld my wife, and she approaches his room, the one we improved for his likeness. She hesitated. Her hand went unrelenting and flat against the shut door. At this point, her crying worsened, and she was losing legging. Each painful outcry felt like a shard of glass being carved right through my soul. The capacious shedding of my spirit almost coerced a vomiting. I grabbed Tangerine, my wife, and together we fell to the ground, our common diabolical brokenness. Well, that's my sample. That's my sample for y'all from the chapter Heartbeat, from my book Columbia Avenue, A Father's Journey Through Grief. It took 7 years to publish. 7 years, and I'm still here. I'm still here feeling these emotions. But I tell you that there is hope in despair. There is hope in sharing a story and a testimony to be able to connect with others and lean upon each other. We are a gift to each other. And that's why I published this book. It took me 7 years to complete this project. Although I only finished the book in 2 years, it took me 7 years to complete. Timing is everything. And I needed to sit on this project for a while to be able to do it, but there's hope in this story. And again, I appreciate everybody that's walking with me on it. If you want to grab a copy, again, it's on Kindle, or a paperback copy is available at my print-on-demand company. The link is in my bio. Thank you, everybody, for listening. That was the chapter Heartbeat. God bless you.